welcome to another edition of People's History. I'm super excited. I thought we'd do something fun and actually do it in class. And so I'll be lecturing out. So it's super exciting. Okay, I'm back. So, we just talked about China. Welcome. This is People's History. My name is Mr. Peoples or JR Peoples, whatever you want to call me, as long as you're not my student. If you're my student, it's Mr. Peoples, and I see you guys. But I'm super happy to be here and talk to you. This is my classroom. This is my beautiful map of the colonial possession. Basically, the 18th and 19th century for the Ottoman Empire was one of decline and change. They were very resistant to any type of Western influence when it comes to managing their country. And so we'll just hop right into it. Our next video will be on Japan. I know the last one was a little long, a little lengthy. I'm going to try to keep it short and brief. By the middle of the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire could no longer compete or negotiate with the European powers. Fiscally, militarily, they just had relied so much on the past and their past successes that they didn't stay current with the new style of colonialism and imperialism and trying to obtain as much land and raw goods as possible to feed into that industrialization. Remember, when you're talking about the AP exam, you want to connect as many dots as you can to get that context and complexity points. Remember, you want to be able to bring in something like the Ottoman Empire and compare the Ottoman Empire to something, say, like China and the way China had diminished, or you could take the Ottoman Empire and compare it to the United States and how the United States took a more colonial view and flourished, where the Ottoman Empire did not do so. In fact, kind of stuck to their own borders, tried to maintain the land that they had already obtained, and diminished as a result. All right. So part of the reason why they lost some of their land, when we're talking about Egypt, and Egypt was sort of on their own, okay, right leading up to 1914, and that was primarily because of the French and Napoleon invading Egypt and removing the Ottoman Empire and essentially leaving them independent and free. Other Eastern European countries, like your Greece here and your Romania up here, they also were able to become independent from the Ottoman Empire during the 19th century. So that is when Greece and Romania, they were able to free themselves from Ottoman rule and govern themselves. Some of the biggest deals with it was they had poor trade agreements with Europe. They gave in on a lot of lack of taxation for Europe. They also really had a technological gap when it came to their military, willing to step out as the Europeans were when it came to their military and putting money into technological innovation. And finally, the Silk Road with the Indian Ocean trade system, the Silk Road wasn't really needed anymore. The ships are so much faster that they could go around the continent of Africa, use the East Indian Ocean trade network, and then they could circumvent the Ottoman Empire. So the Silk Road really was the backbone for that country. If you think about it, they were intermediary. In other words, the guy in between, the middleman. Well, they were getting paid on both ends when they were taxing somebody to buy the goods, when they were then selling the goods back to them. So when you get it on both ends, you're able to really bolster your economy. But since they were able to circumvent that, they no longer needed it. One of the biggest changes that we saw during that time period, so one of the problems with the Ottoman Empire and their lack of change and their lack of modernization was that there was no internal strife. For the most part, the Ottoman Empire ran pretty smoothly. There was not these peasant uprisings. There was not a Boxer rebellion style of thing going on. There was not a revolution as in the French. It did not exist. So there was no radical change that took place. And so those changes came slow. So first change was at the end of the 18th century, and they brought in European military reformists. Those people were met with extreme displeasure by both religious leaders and military leaders, as they were seen as Westerners coming in and trying to change them. What ends up happening is this thing called a Tanzimat, okay, which is basically reorganization, okay, and they look to more centralize their government. This process was slow, though, and they wanted it for economic reasons, social reasons, and legal reasons. So in 1856, the Ottoman Empire gave equal rights to all men. Okay, that included non-Muslims, which was a big deal. They also began secular education. Mostly for men. This did benefit women a little bit, but it was mostly for men. They also sought major changes in a parliament system. They wanted to have more of like your United Kingdom style parliament where you had representation of the people and they would go to the parliament and vote on laws. They also wanted a constitutional government with checks and balances similar to that of the United States. In 1876, Sultan Al-Hamid accepted but then rescinded it after war pressure and reverted back. Okay, so kind of what happened was he started to have pressure in 1876. He at first was like, yes, a constitutional style government sounds awesome. And also we can have this parliament system, which also sounds great. And then the second that there was pressure of a war about to take place, he receded all of that and went back to that dictatorship. The Ottomans were the ones that wanted a secular life. And then you also had the Young Turks. The Young Turks wanted to revert to a more Islamic style, religious first lifestyle, and to remove that kind of military lifestyle. This was headed by the coup d'etat, demanded for a secular life, and they opened up schools to women. Nationalist ideas of Europe kind of shaped the next decade with them. All right, so that is that for the Ottoman Empire and the second video. Okay, I know that was a brief one. China kind of took a little while, so I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to edit this up and make sure that you guys get both. It might end up being 4 videos because China is such a big player in the 20th century when it comes to First World War I and the growth of the Asia in general, leading into World War II when Japan goes into Manchuria and kind of the sphere of influence Japan growing as the decline of China happens. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Japanese next video.